All right, how we doing, everybody?
Good.
All right. I think it's been a little bit of a weird day, only because of it as well. It was a good second half and that, and quite honestly, we were all pissed about that we needed to have a good second half. We've got really high standards about how we want to play, and so when we don't meet them, we're pissed about it. And like we want that ass-kicking performance, start to finish, first quarter through the fourth, and however long we need to go. So that's what I like for us to make sure we're focusing on as we're going through it. But just wanted to share that with you as we're getting going, because we got really high standards, and I know we can reach them. And so when we don't meet them, it makes you mad. So we're ready to get going and kind of go through it and get ready for the next one. But that's how it felt coming out of it.
Dan, David Lord, Dallas Morning News. You and Mike were talking going into the game about a premium on tackling, especially with how they play. It seemed uncharacteristic, your tackling, based on what we've seen this year. Was it their scheme, their athletic ability? What was
Yeah, I think this in the Giant game, we had the most missed tackles in a game. I think it was 10 this one. It may have been 10 in that one as well. So for us, more of it was, our tracking. We knew there's a lot of, space plays that we'd get, but just making sure that we could really dial in and own, the leverage that we wanted to go. So when we missed a few of those, one on a sack, one on, some in space, some in line, just one that we know we can, get corrected, and we certainly will. But yeah, it was just more than we were comfortable with. That's why, kind of referring to high standards and takeaways, we weren't able to get any. Our tackling wasn't as good, and so when you miss those moments to nail it and you don't, you're just pissed about it. And I want to make sure that we nail them, because I know that we can. So that's what I do love about our group of guys. They were all pissed at it. And we sat in it, and we'll move past it too. But like I said, we have really high standards of how we want to operate, and so when we don't, it bothers us.
Both those teams have running quarterbacks as well.
Yeah.
Hurst runs a little differently,
Yeah.
but does that make it problematic? Did that lead to some of the issues, or is that not really an excuse?
Yeah. In this game, I don't think it was, David. And the reason why, there just wasn't as many. Daniel Jones had a lot of runs, that he was outside the pocket. I thought the guys did a good job on this, where we were expecting Hurts, to be more of a runner on the third down part. And really, they ran the ball more on third down than drop back and throw him where he would scramble. And we've seen him make so many plays doing that. So I thought we expected a lot of screens. I thought that part went better. And, for him from a scrambling side of things, the guys did a good job in that space.
Question for Mr. Telegram. I guess things to be pissed about. You guys, offense gets the score 2017, and you give up the big drive. You just talked about disappointment.
We felt the momentum shift, didn't you? And so in that one, I think there was a 3rd and 4, a 3rd and 1, and allowed them to go down to score. Because I thought that's kind of what I was referring to. Like, the third quarter felt good to get back into it, to go and have some real space to go. It was good to see the offense get 2 scores, and so right there, you're right back in it to make that shift, and that's the moment that we had to nail. And our group has been really strong at the end of the games, and so for us to miss that one and miss a few third downs on that one, that's the scar from this game, that we'll talk about, of missing that opportunity. Because when you fight back and you get right back into it, you got to go nail it again. And so as good as that went in the second, that was the one. You're exactly right.
Kyle Watkins, Dallas Morning News. Yeah, number of penalties. How frustrating was that to see some of those?
Yeah, I think we had 5 is what I counted on, and quite honestly, a couple of them were even in the end, where we had 2 or 3 on that same drive at the end. So the post-snap ones, we can control those. Whether it's our attitude, our tempo, that combative nature that you get into, to say, okay, I'm backing away from this one. I'm not going to get the foul. And so when they lead to first downs or to, free 15 yards, those are hard to overcome in a drive. And so we'll get those shored up for sure. And certainly can't have them. Like, there's going to be ones that you get, just from playing and battling. That's the normal reaction. But a neutral zone infraction or a unsportsmanlike just from a comment, like, we can do better than that.
It's usually pretty mild-mannered, but to see him react the way he did when he slammed his helmet, just your thoughts on.
Yeah, I think sometimes frustration gets to all of us in different ways, and that was the only emotion he could trigger at that moment. And we got to have other ones that we can do. Sometimes when you get in that moment, you're just so pissed you don't have anything else to access, and I'm certain that was the case on that one. And so there's other ways. Hey, we'll let it pass and get back to the sideline and go. And when you have a win or a loss, you want to take all the lessons from them. It'd be nice if all the wins, you took all the lessons in the same space, but I tell you, and through coaching, that isn't always the case. And so sometimes these lessons like today can go a long way about, what we need to do and how we need to play.
Piggyback on the penalties real quick, I'm sorry. The Dante Fowler neutral zone, was it discussed that, hey, they're just trying to very emphasize on fourth down? What do you?
Yeah, we do. We call that a no-brainer. And so we bring those up to say this could be, something they're going to work on this team. But to their defense, they do go for it a lot on fourth. So, whether it was a no-brainer or not, if they didn't have a play called and they were just trying to work a shift to get to the end of the quarter, that's their strategy to go. But no matter what, we can use our discipline into that spot there. That's a big one to get. That's creating a turnover in the red zone, to flip it back the other way. Because as you know, after that one, a touchdown occurred. So those are those little moments that we were talking about, whether it's a poise one or doing that. If we're really going to play to the standards we want, we can't have those little episodes where something could knock us off course. There's enough plays in the course of a game where a missed tackle happens or, somebody makes an exceptional play to go. But ones that we can control, whether it's a pre-snap or a post-snap, those ones, we can eliminate, and we know we will.
Todd. Dan, Todd Archer of the ESPN. We hear offensive coaches say the key to third down is what you do on first down. For you guys on that side of the ball, maybe even on that drive after they made it 2017, was it your first down issues that were leading to the third? It was third, 4, 3rd and 1.
3rd and 1, yeah.
Wasn't left 3rd and long.
No, it wasn't. And when we can get into those longer ones, Todd, as you know, that's where you can be a little more creative, a little more, wide open, so to speak, to go play it. And when you're in those smaller windows, we really got to nail them. And so when we missed on those, I think one of them might have been a sneak, and another one was an inside run. So when you don't nail those ones on the smaller distances, those are the ones that leave you vulnerable to, treating that like another second down play where it's, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3.
With the run defense, I think it's 4 games of the first 6 they've had more than 120 yards against y'all. Is it because you play so much sub-package, or is it just the teams that you've played, that's what they emphasize, or that's what they want?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yesterday also had 37 carries. So, we were expecting a full dose of, run against them. And sometimes when you get ahead, they may even become a little bit more in the running game. But I think it's just dependent on the opponent of how we go. Sometimes when you do a good job, like we did, I thought, in Los Angeles, those kind of early downs become some more manageable third downs. And I think that's a bigger byproduct of anything where you can play better on those early downs.
Christy Scales, Cowboys Radio. Back to tackling for just a moment. Another emphasis this week, Detroit. Also an unfamiliar opponent, but with their run game. You talk about the challenge of addressing that this week, if you're going to be a little abbreviated during the week after the overnight trip last night.
Yeah, and I think at the end, it's part meeting, part technique, and drilling it, and you want to make sure the drills that you're putting in are going to apply into the game. And so which space tackling, which ones to hit on, and certainly they have excellent runners, and Swift's got the speed also to make you miss. So, yeah, the tackling will be, right at the forefront of our talking, but also of our drill work, and to make sure we've got some excellent tacklers on our team. I thought none finer in yesterday's game than Malik Hooker. I thought he really, has been consistent in that approach. And I would imagine the guys that miss some, they'll come back with a pretty good vengeance about how they want to play.
Babe Loffenberg, Dallas Cowboys Radio. Obviously, you can't be in 2 places at one time, but you're up top. Was yesterday or last night a game where you wish you could have transported yourself down and try to settle things down a little bit? Or do you just remove yourself totally from?
No, I don't. Yeah, I think, the emotions are part of the game. And so it gave me some, good things to hit on at the half. But even before then, the guys are going through. And I do get to communicate, through Malik and JK on the headset, hey, this is what I want you to tell to the guys. This is the message I want you to get across. Or I'm hitting to the other assistant coaches. I want to make sure we're talking through these 1, 2, or 3 things. So I always enjoy the interaction with them. So I always miss that of being in the press box. But the better version of me is more clear-headed and away from it as it can go, because I'd be just as excited to be in the fight as everybody.
And not a lot of penalties called on them there. I think they finish with 2 at the end of the night. Does that lead to a little bit of frustration too, when you're not getting calls going your way? Not for you in the booth, but for the guys playing?
I think any of those things can tag into your emotions, whether you get behind or you miss one or anything that can just jam you up or you feel like you're against it. But sometimes that can also bring out the very best in you to say, hey, I know we're not getting the calls, or I know we're not getting, we got to go win it anyway and do it. So I'd prefer to spin it on the other way, to say when it's not going your way, that you get even a little tighter and a little stronger to go. Tad said he would take all the fines about me talking about officiating today, so I'll pass that along to him. But when it happens, and whether you miss one or don't, you got to go to the next one, because if you keep hanging on and have resentment for that referee who didn't make a call or a play that you thought you were wronged on, it'll just end up costing you in the next one. And so the faster you can access it, okay, it happened and I got to get on to the next one, that's when you do. But for the ones that we know we can control, that's ours, we got to be able to do that. The ones that they don't call, yeah, you get pissed, and they generally don't hear me yelling from the press box at them, so that's probably a good thing for me.
You were, Todd's question earlier about third downs, and you were talking about the windows you're in. How are those windows set and immutable, or how much does it depend on your talent, how long you've had these guys in the system, where it changes a little bit?
It does, and it does the opponent too. To say, for some teams, short yardage might be 3rd or 4th and 1, and some teams maybe add 2 into it. For a team like Philadelphia, it was add 3 or 4 into that, to say, what does that opponent do, per game. And so usually we have these windows of, what is short yardage this week, what's going to be considered medium, what's going to be considered long, and we do move that line based on what a team will do. So for us in that one, we're a little bit reactionary to see what does the team generally do in that space, and then we try to game plan, accordingly.
Michael Gelfman, Dallas Morning News. I'm curious your general thoughts on the mesh concept that the Eagles ran. It was the same play twice with the flat.
Yep.
What were your general thoughts about just how that developed?
Yep, and I would say give them credit. A lot of times they've done it with a tight end and a receiver to the same side as the back, and usually that's the 3-way option play, Michael. So it could be, as I'm giving a zone read, I could hand it. I could see, a defensive end playing it, I could keep it. Or as I'm coming out, now I got the third element where I can throw off of it. And so that's the part that coaches can sometimes get agitated with, because they see linemen down the field, and that's not allowed. So they did a nice job of bringing a wide receiver across to become part of that option as the third element to throw it. So the change-ups that you try to make into there, okay, you can play zone on those plays, or play a different defense or a different one, a different style to go. And those are the ones for my own self to look at to say, okay, what would I do different when we get a chance to play them, in the next game? And so yesterday I did not know when we were playing them next, but I heard 12-24 coming up for some of the players, and so I said, okay, that's cool. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. And then I asked somebody, asked when we're playing them again. I said, all right, damn right. Fill in the words. All right, I'm about that day too. So,
There was a sudden change situation between that 4th and 3 when they ran it, and then when they ran it on the following drive. Did that disrupt the opportunity maybe to make some adjustments with players just because it was so bang?
No, I think because I do get I can change the call to go to a different one. If you repeat the same call on when they're doing one, that would happen. But I do have the chance to not maybe put a player into the same spot if it's a one to go. And so I think if it was early on, I think we had played some man-to-man. And so after those happened, those were some of the changes that take place. But sometimes one time doesn't make it a tendency for the game yet until they do it a few times. I say, okay, let's change this up. Sometimes you call a good play against the right defense and you say, all right, that's one way to go. And if it's a repeating one, then you say, okay, let's adjust to this. And that's kind of the fun part about coaching, honestly, to say, okay, we might have prepared for one thing and now they're doing something different, and how quickly we can access that. And so when I was referring to earlier, that's why people say, well, good job in the second half, and why we were pissed to say, like, we want that standard to hold on and be, those high standards that we want consistently for us, first quarter through the whole way through. And I think we can reach them. I really do, with the group we have, with the mindset we have. So that's why today, yeah, there's a sour taste based on that. But in some ways, that's a good thing because you're not looking for a pat on the back for something that's halfway done. We want it all the way through, all the time. And if we're going to be the kick-ass crew that I know we can be, we'll follow through on that.
Were your meetings today more emotional, or were you kind of measured when you had to address your team?
I would say I'm usually more measured, and what do we learn from it? What happened? And then you go into the next one. So what did we learn from this? And then what will we take into the next one? Because some of the ones from this game will apply to next week in Detroit, and others will only apply, until we play them again. And you keep those, notes in your logs about what you want to do and how you want to go, and then you open that back up as we get into that preparation. But so it's twofold. But generally, you want to make sure what were the lessons learned and how do we apply it moving forward.
It's like you were more irritated today talking to us, and obviously you're winning games, so you're
Yeah.
happy.
Well, my glass isn't always half full. I mean, 99.9% of the time it is, but I get pissed just like everybody else. And so I just, I know what we're capable of. And so when we don't quite nail it, and that goes to me too, to say, I wish I had that called differently, and I wish I could, put them in a better spot to do one. So I've got a lot of faith in who we are as a defense. And so that's why I guess I was, pissed today to say, I really believe if they knew how much I believe in them, they'd be shocked because of how strongly I think they can become. So when we don't hit it quite right, it bothers me.
Tim, what are your thoughts on Micah's game, and did they put him in conflict more than some other teams with their run game and maybe make him hesitate at all, or even in having him cover more because when he was off the ball?
Right, that's a good question. I would say I don't think so, Todd, only because of the it wasn't a drop back passing game, so we didn't get into some of the rushes and the pressures like we normally would based on their style. And so I wouldn't say it was specific to Micah as it was just specific to how they play, and so I don't think there's wasn't anything directed towards him or towards, we could have easily played him at DN. I think the same plays would have happened. We played him more at linebacker in this game just because I did feel like they were going to be running the ball more, but I don't think it was specific to him as much as it was to the defense.
You run a lot of big nickel. When you have four safeties though on the field at the same time, what is that what is that personnel group called?
Hippo.
Hippo?
Hippo. So we go all the animal terms. We got buffalo for big nickels and hippos when we bring in extra safeties, and it just kind of depends on the package that we need. I think on that particular one they might have had 3 tight ends, and so at times we'll use that package. We've done it a few times before. I think the last time might have been 2 weeks ago that we had it up for a game, and so it just depends how we want to feature the guys and who are some of the matchups that you do. But that one's been up for us for a while.
No lion package?
We have that too, yep. Yeah.
What's the lion package?
Could be lion nickel, lion dino.
Mike?
You are right on the right track. Yeah.
Anybody else? All right.
All right, you guys have a good one. We'll see you next week. Okay, so long.